I wanted to show you guys this neat little graphic that I happened to stumble upon today after I bared witness to yet another Shai masterclass in the fourth quarter last night to give the Thunder a tough victory over Miami, a game that required a huge second half run to overcome a double-digit deficit. The Thunder maintained their pace with an 8-2 record in their last 10 games. By the way, Shai now ties Kevin Durant with the most 30-point games in single-season OKC Thunder history, which I am sure will be broken by the end of next game. He is Mr. Consistent, Mr. Roll out of bed and drop 30 on 50% or better from the field. This is a great example of another tough game that this team is totally capable of losing, and you'd understand it if they did against a Heat team playing good basketball with a generally healthy lineup, at least as healthy as a lineup as they've had throughout this season, given the youth and the inexperience of the Thunder, even as a juggernaut team. And yes, I know they're unproven in the postseason, but a 44-19 record, first seed in the West, qualifies as a juggernaut right this second, and we'll see what happens next. But once again, SGA refuses to let his team lose with 12 fourth quarter points on 4 of 6 shooting. So the guy just doesn't miss shots throughout a basketball game. And then when it gets to the fourth quarter, he still doesn't miss shots, even against a team like Miami that typically does really well limiting star players. This was Shai's first 30-point game versus the Miami Heat in his career, and he will have a chance to score 30-plus against every team in the league. Here are the remaining teams he needs. Indiana and Dallas should be cake. The Bucks' perimeter defense has been a joke for most of the year, and then Toronto might give him a challenge, but it's only right for him to grab a 30-piece in Canada, so this looks pretty doable. First player since James Harden, if he does it, but there's no star in the NBA right now that is better at picking and choosing their spots. Maybe the Joker, but when it comes to when to shoot and when to pass and limiting settle shots that the defense would like you to take, even the three-point shot is falling for SGA this year, which has been one of his very few weaknesses as a scorer, and a shot that he traditionally doesn't shoot a lot, and still the guy is so demoralizing once he gets 15 feet from the basket. You might as well just put 2 points on the board. As a defense, you would love for him to shoot as many tough, deep jump shots as possible, but this guy just can't be guarded one-on-one. He can't be prevented from entering that mid-range unless you bring additional defenders. You try to throw a million defensive looks, maybe a zone. Teams are going to have to get creative with how they defend this team in the playoffs. And I'm willing to bet we see a few games where defenses are leaving other guys wide open, daring anybody else to beat them. In the case of like Josh Giddey, this will be especially interesting, as we have already seen certain strategies of giving him any three-point shot he wants. So it'll be interesting to see if a guy like that gets played off the floor frequently in the playoffs, or if he rises up to the occasion. The only way to stop SGA, it seems, is to have him play the Lakers. I guess because that's the one team OKC, for whatever reason, hasn't seemed to be able to figure out all year, and they very possibly could end up drawing them in the first round, which is potentially disastrous for the Thunder. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I would take them to win that series outright. Your first playoff series is a lot of pressure on the whole team, on SGA. You're going up against LeBron and AD, that's tough. Everybody's waiting to see what this guy looks like on that big stage. Of course, last season he was notoriously put in jail by his cousin, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, in the play-in game, his only taste of quote-unquote postseason ball as the main guy. And I'm sure he's been motivated all season to erase that from everybody's memory. Anyway, we can only judge what we've seen so far this season, and that's yet another step forward. And despite the fact that every opposing team he sees is extremely aware that he is going to tear them to shreds, they still can't stop it from happening. The emphasis on getting all the way to the bucket is so important for the hope that his game translates well to the postseason. I know he played a series in the bubble, but as far as I'm concerned, that's ancient history. He is the engine of this team every single night, and they will go as far as he goes. No ifs, ands, or buts. And he is the MVP of the league, if you let me tell it. I know the league gets more perimeter-oriented every season, and guys love to shoot threes, but time and time again, the teams that can establish consistency close to the basket shall be the most feared in the playoffs. And the habits of guys settling for deep, tough threes is not a behavior that typically translates well once we get there. Slight contact stops being a foul. Transition points aren't given away like candy. and you have to work hard for buckets in the half court over and over. The truth is that the Warriors could play the game outside in because they were fortunate enough to have the greatest shooter to breathe air play for their team. And another guy that was also one of the best ever. So all the teams that tried to replicate that don't. The Thunder have their own formula, and they just continue to win basketball games, and who knows where they'd be without this man.